Imagine walking into a room and, within seconds, knowing exactly who's confident and who's pretending, sensing who's lying, who's nervous, who's trying too hard to impress. What if you could see beyond words, into what people truly feel, want, and fear? Today, we're diving deep into Read People Like a Book by Patrick King, a fascinating guide to decoding human nature, understanding emotions, and predicting behavior with near-scientific precision. Let's uncover the art of reading people, one chapter at a time. The art of reading people. We all know that person who just gets others effortlessly. They can sense lies, predict reactions, and make anyone feel understood. It almost feels like a superpower, but it's not. Patrick King begins by demystifying this skill. Reading people isn't magic, it's a learnable craft. Every human being is like a black box. We can't see their thoughts, only the clues they leave behind. Tone, words, posture, eye contact, habits, and patterns. The goal isn't to become a mind reader, but to become an intelligent observer. When we gather enough high-quality data and analyze it logically, we can make remarkably accurate judgments about who people really are. This isn't guesswork, it's structured perception. King reminds us that mastering people reading isn't just about winning arguments or spotting lies. It's about building empathy, improving communication, and making our relationships richer and more real. Why you're probably doing it wrong. Most of us believe we're good with people, but King dismantles that illusion fast. We rely on stereotypes, single cues, and confirmation bias. We remember the times we were right and forget when we were wrong. He points out that reading people isn't about spotting one gesture or expression. It's about recognizing clusters of behavior and understanding context. A nervous laugh might mean anxiety in one person, deception in another, or simple shyness in a third. Without a baseline, knowing what's normal for that person, we risk misjudging them completely. Culture, too, plays a massive role. What's respectful eye contact in one country may be rude in another. And perhaps the biggest barrier of all, ourselves. Our own fears, assumptions, and emotions distort what we see in others. The first rule of reading others is to first understand yourself. The problem of objectivity. King reminds us how subjective perception can be. 5 people can attend the same dinner and walk away with 5 different interpretations of what happened. Why? Because most of what we communicate is nonverbal. Only 7% of meaning comes from words. Tone accounts for about 38% and body language for over half. The key to accuracy is objectivity, learning to separate what you feel from what's true. King refers to Simon Baron-Cohen's social intelligence test, which challenges people to read emotions just from photographs of eyes. The result? Most of us aren't as perceptive as we think. But the good news, emotional intelligence can be trained. The more we practice observation, the sharper our empathy becomes. Chapter 1. Motivation as a behavioral predictor. Why do people behave the way they do? Why does one person lash out in anger while another withdraws in silence? Patrick King begins by revealing a simple but powerful truth. Every action is driven by motivation. Whether conscious or buried deep in the subconscious, there's always a reason behind what people do. If you can identify what drives someone, you can predict how they'll act next. King explains that people's motivations can often be traced back to internal forces: pleasure, pain, fear, or desire. To truly read people, we must become detectives of motive, tracing behavior back to its emotional root. He breaks this process down into key frameworks. 1. The shadow. Inspired by Carl Jung, King introduces the concept of the shadow self. This is the part of us that hides everything we reject: our shame, guilt, anger, jealousy, and insecurity. People often deny these traits, but their behavior leaks clues. For example, someone who constantly brags may actually feel inferior. A harsh critic might secretly be projecting their own self-doubt. Once you understand that outward behavior often masks inner insecurity, people's actions start to make sense. To read the shadow, look for overcompensation. The louder someone insists they don't care, the more likely they do. 2. The inner child. Every adult carries within them a younger version of themselves, one shaped by childhood experiences. This inner child seeks love, safety, and validation. When triggered, adults revert to childlike responses: anger, defiance, withdrawal, or sulking. Recognizing when someone's inner child is in control allows you to respond calmly instead of escalating. A partner who throws tantrums isn't being childish on purpose. They're expressing unhealed wounds. When you treat such moments with empathy instead of judgment, you change the dynamic entirely. 3. The pleasure-pain principle. Drawing on Freud's theory, King explains that humans are motivated by two primal forces: the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. However, we work harder to avoid pain than to seek joy. This explains why fear, shame, and anxiety dominate decisions more than ambition or excitement. When reading someone, ask, what pain are they trying to avoid? Or what pleasure are they chasing? You'll often discover the emotional equation driving their behavior. For example, a workaholic might not be ambitious as much as terrified of failure. A friend who avoids deep conversations may not be disinterested. They might be avoiding emotional discomfort. 4. Maslow's pyramid of needs. King revisits Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a pyramid with 5 levels: physiological, safety, love/belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. Every person operates from one dominant level. Someone struggling for survival won't care about higher ideals like creativity or meaning. They're focused on paying rent or securing food. Once those needs are met, the next layer becomes relevant. When you know where a person sits on this pyramid, their behavior becomes predictable. A person seeking esteem may crave recognition. One seeking love may overextend themselves for approval. You can tailor your interactions accordingly. 5. Defense of the ego. The ego protects us from emotional pain. When threatened, it deploys defense mechanisms: denial, projection, rationalization, repression, and displacement. King describes these as psychological reflexes that twist reality to preserve our self-image. For instance, someone who constantly blames others for failure may be avoiding the pain of self-doubt. A person who mocks others' success might secretly feel inferior. Spotting these patterns allows you to see the truth behind the defense. King reminds us, when someone's ego is fighting to stay safe, it's not deception, it's fear. Recognize the fear, and you'll understand the person. Chapter 2. The body, the face, and clusters. King emphasizes that the body is an open book if you know how to read it. Words may be rehearsed, but the body betrays the truth. The key is to interpret clusters of signals rather than isolated gestures. Reading the face. Micro-expressions, fleeting, involuntary facial movements can expose concealed emotions. A flash of fear, a tightening jaw, or a half-smile can reveal what someone's words try to hide. King notes that the face communicates through subtle interplay. Raised eyebrows might signal curiosity, skepticism, or disbelief, depending on accompanying cues. Body language. Posture, gestures, and movement give away confidence levels and emotional states. Open body posture suggests comfort. Crossed arms may indicate self-protection. But King warns against hasty conclusions. Context matters. A person might cross their arms because they're cold, not defensive. He teaches us to watch for congruence. If verbal and physical messages align, authenticity is likely. If they conflict, believe the body, it's harder to control. Message clusters. King introduces the concept of message clusters, groups of related signals that collectively reveal a person's inner state. One gesture means little, but 3 consistent cues tell a story. For instance, sustained eye contact, leaning forward, and mirroring gestures signal genuine engagement. Conversely, fidgeting, avoiding gaze, and minimal facial expression may reveal disinterest or deceit. To master body reading, train your eyes to see patterns, not snapshots. Observe transitions, the shifts between comfort and discomfort, openness and withdrawal. Chapter 3. Personality Science and Typology. King then turns to personality psychology, the study of stable patterns that shape behavior. Understanding these traits helps us predict long-term tendencies rather than momentary reactions. The Big Five personality traits. He explores the Big Five model: openness, creativity, conscientiousness, discipline, extroversion, sociability, agreeableness, kindness, and neuroticism, emotional stability. These dimensions act as a map of human nature. For instance, highly conscientious people value order and reliability, while those high in openness crave novelty and experience. By observing behavior, how people talk, dress, and make choices, you can infer their dominant traits. Jung and the MBTI. Carl Jung's theory evolved into the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, which categorizes people based on how they perceive and judge the world. Introvert versus extrovert, sensing versus intuitive, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. These combinations reveal how individuals process information and make decisions. Recognizing these preferences in others, like whether they speak in details, sensing, or concepts, intuition, helps you adapt your communication style. Keirsey's temperaments. King references David Keirsey's 4 temperaments: guardians, duty-driven; artisans, spontaneous; idealists, empathetic; and rationals, analytical. Each sees the world through different values. Knowing someone's temperament enables you to anticipate how they'll act under pressure or in relationships. The Enneagram. Lastly, King introduces the Enneagram, which maps 9 personality types rooted in core fears and desires, like the helper who needs to feel loved or the challenger who fears vulnerability. This system adds emotional depth to personality reading by linking behavior to psychological motivation. King's message is clear. Personality frameworks aren't boxes, they're windows. Use them not to judge, but to empathize. Chapter 4. Lie Detection 101. Lies are everywhere. White lies, omissions, exaggerations. King reveals that skilled lie detection isn't about spotting a single tell, but noticing disharmony between truth and performance. The science of deception. Lying is cognitively demanding. The liar must remember their story, suppress truth, and monitor your reaction, all at once. This mental overload leaks through physical cues: hesitations, inconsistent eye movement, fidgeting, or changes in speech rhythm. Strategies to detect lies. Surprise questions. Catch the brain off guard. Ask something unexpected to disrupt rehearsed answers. Increase cognitive load. Request that the person retell the story backward or include trivial details. The liar struggles to maintain coherence. Watch for overcompensation. Some liars overemphasize honesty, adding unnecessary details or insisting to be honest. Look for timing delays. A short pause before an answer often signals mental construction rather than recall. Listen for tone mismatch. A confident statement delivered with a shaky voice indicates tension between words and truth. King warns, though, that lie detection should never become paranoia. People lie for many reasons, some to protect, not deceive. The real goal is awareness, not suspicion. Chapter 5. Using the power of observation. The final skill ties everything together: observation. To read people accurately, King introduces the idea of thin slicing, or making insightful judgments based on brief behavioral glimpses. But thin slicing only works when supported by mindful attention and context. Active observation. King insists observation is not passive staring. It's active curiosity. Observe without bias, and you'll see more. The art lies in noticing what others miss. The change in tone mid-sentence, the flicker of discomfort, the energy shift when a topic arises. Ask smarter questions. Instead of direct confrontation, use indirect questions that draw out authentic responses. How did you feel about that? Often reveals more than why did you do that? When you give people space to express themselves, they'll unconsciously expose their motives. Connecting the clues. Reading people isn't about isolated data points, it's synthesis. Combine what you see, body, hear, words, and sense emotion to build a coherent narrative. Like Sherlock Holmes, You must piece together fragments until the person's character emerges. Self-reflection, the ultimate insight. The better you understand yourself, the clearer others become. Observation sharpens empathy. When you stop projecting and start perceiving, people reveal themselves naturally. King ends with a challenge. Slow down, pay attention, and stay curious. Because when you master observation, you stop guessing and start truly understanding human nature. Reading people is not manipulation, it's understanding. When you can sense what others feel without them saying it, you gain compassion, not control. Patrick King's Read People Like a Book teaches us that behind every action lies a motive, behind every smile a story, and behind every person a pattern waiting to be seen. The art is in paying attention, not to what people say, but to what they show when they think no one's watching.